By June of 1862, the Union's Peninsula Campaign was coming to an end. Under the command of George B. McClellan, they began to withdraw to the James River to evacuate and return to Washington, D.C. However, the Confederates, under their newly minted commander Robert E. Lee, were in hot pursuit. The battles, as they were driven back, are collectively known as the 7 Days Battles. We, today, are going to focus on the 6th day of that battle. Today, on Tabletop History, we look at the Battle of Glendale. Throughout the spring of 1862, the Union command had executed its Peninsula Campaign, driving back the Confederate Army and trapping it around its capital of Richmond, Virginia. Following the Battle of Seven Pines, Robert E. Lee was now in command of the Confederate Army. After waiting through most of the month of June for better weather, McClellan finally attacked, first at Oak Ridge. However, still convinced that he was outnumbered some 2-1 by the Confederates, which was not true at all, McClellan convinced himself that the best course of action would be to withdraw back to the James River and try and reestablish for another campaign in the future, when maybe they had more men and materiel. Lee didn't wait. After the first battle, the second one at Beaver Dam Creek occurred on June 26, 1862. McClellan started his withdrawal towards the James River with Confederates in hot pursuit. The battles that ensued are known as the 7 Days Battle, as the Union withdrew towards the James River. The third day, Gaines' Mill, was covered in a previous episode. The battles continued on for 2 more days, with minor infractions happening along the way. McClellan had organized his retreat to withdraw back towards the James River to the southeast so that he might be protected by Union gunboats who were aligned along the river. Doing so would mean giving up several important supply routes. As he headed south, there were several problems with the road network as there became fewer and fewer roads as he approached his final point of Harrison's Landing, where most of the Union Navy waited for him. This meant giving up his supply line along the railroad to the north and being isolated to only one major road that would lead his entire army to the port where they would be picked up. Lee knew this, so as he drove back during the 7 days, he began to plan a way to trap the Union Army and hopefully destroy it, and possibly even bringing a quick end to the war. As the various corps started following each other, the lineup looked something like this, a C formation by the Union as they lined up towards Glendale, with them heading south along the road towards Harrison's Landing. Jackson had been in hot pursuit, hitting up the rear guard of Franklin's 6th Corps, with Huger, A.P. Hill, Longstreet, and Holmes attacking along the way. Robert E. Lee had planned for an attack at Glendale that would hopefully drive into the heart of the matter. The plan was for Jackson to continue attacking along the northern side of the route, with A.P. Hill and Longstreet supporting by driving into the middle. Huger was to lead the charge, driving down straight from Richmond. On the southern end, Holmes would conduct military artillery action against Porter, who was starting to line up and defend around Malvern Hill, a battle that we will cover in a separate episode. Robert E. Lee was new to command and had several different ideas to help his military strategy along the way. Although a brilliant commander, he was actually using people who were not quite up to par in what he was using. In fact, of the 6 corps commanders for the Confederacy during the 7-day battle, 3 would be immediately reassigned and never directly be under Lee's command again during his major military actions. Among these was Major General Benjamin Huger, who was from South Carolina and had served with distinction as an artillery commander during the Mexican-American War. However, immediately after the 7 Days Battle, he was blamed by several Confederate commanders, including Longstreet, for impeding the Confederate attack, and was transferred to an administrative post after his lackluster performance throughout the 7 days. With the military assignment set up, The Battle of Glendale was due to start early on the morning of June 30th, 1862. The focus of the Union Army for this attack was some 40,000 strong, with 45,000 Confederates focused on this point. The Battle of Glendale is actually known by several different names. Among these is the Battle of Riddle's Shop, which was located at the Glendale Junction. The Battle of Nelson Farm is also well known, although it's also called Frazier's Farm. Frazier family had owned it for a long time, but it had recently been purchased by the Nelson family. Also, the northern section of this battle is sometimes referred to as the Battle of White Oak Creek. However it's named, the details of the battle are fairly clear. George B. McClellan was withdrawing. Jackson was in hot pursuit, with Huger to lead a charge against the middle sections of this formation. George B. McClellan was determined to leave. Henry Slocum was in charge of the withdrawal and had served bravely throughout most of the 7 days. On the morning, Slocum was the target for Huger's advance. Jackson had actually paused his attack because as he tried to cross the bridges over the White Oak Swamp, he was harassed by Union gunfire. Determined that it was not worth the losses, he was determined to sit and wait it out, and Jackson himself is reported to even have taken a nap throughout most of the battle. Huger was in a similar predicament where he did not execute his portion of the plan as desired either. His elements were fought and engaged in what is known as the Battle of the Axes, because the road that they were determined to drive down to hit the Union had been covered by fallen trees and foliage. So instead of finding alternate routes, Huger determined that they were going to go through using axemen to clear a path. The delays in the action meant that the Union lines were able to reinforce themselves to the north against Jackson and delayed the attack by A.P. Hill and Longstreet, who were waiting for Huger to initiate the attack and then were ordered to follow up and support following the fact. As Sedgwick reinforced Richardson against Jackson, McClellan himself had actually retreated to the USS Galena on the James River and was not part of the action. By 4 p.m., Hill and Longstreet heard gunfire and determined that it was Huger finally engaging and advanced against the ridge around Glendale Junction. The battle itself became very ferocious and fierce. However, it was disorganized. Entirely under the control of James Longstreet, he did not attack all at once. However, he resorted to sending one brigade after another in succession, heeding the Union in piecemeal. Brigadier General George A. McCall was determined to come up and support the lines as needed, and was able to relatively easily drive back Hill and Longstreet. Lee's somewhat complicated plan had fallen apart into a bloody fistfight, with the Union and Confederate soldiers fighting each other in the woods around Glendale Junction, with no resolution really coming into place, as the disjointed attack by the Confederates lost the opportunity to split the Union into two. The orders that Lee gave were complex, and he never quite gave the same resolve ever again, instead resorting to more simplified orders as the heat of battle can change plans. By 8 p.m., the Confederates had withdrawn and reserved for the night. Over the nighttime hours, the Union continued their withdrawal to the south, with Confederates looking on, seeing their campfires, wagons, and other utilities being pulled away. The casualties at Glendale were among some of the highest of the 7 days, with both sides suffering roughly equal amounts. However, the pursuit was on as the Confederates were determined to keep pushing. Despite their fatigue and disorganization, they were intending to break the Union Army while they could. Today, some of the area around where the Battle of Glendale is fought is preserved by the National Park Service as part of their Richmond facilities. Most of the historical memorialization is actually maintained just a few miles south, where the Battle of Malvern Hill was called and fought as well. Thanks for joining us on this next episode of Tabletop History. We hope you'll take the time to watch some of our other videos, give them a like, and subscribe. We'll try to post videos regularly on here, and we hope that we see you next time.